But feel free. If not, we'll just throw it open for questions.
No, I'm just happy to be here. I do have to say hi to my son Garrett's watching back at high school, so I got the computer on. So I want to say hi to him and Kelly that are watching, and I'll be home soon. And take any of your questions. Like I said last time I spoke in front of the group at recruiting, this has been a magical journey for me to get down here. If there was a handful of jobs that I was a young coach that I wanted, this was one of them, and so I'm excited to be here.
Greg, Andrew Carter with the Orlando Sentinel. Why did you want this job when you were coming up? Why? Just kind of take us through that. Why this means so much to you?
Well, ironically, my first coaching job in football at Redlands, I worked for Mike Maynard in Division III, and our assistant, or the defensive coordinator that I worked for, was from Port Charlotte, and Kirk Hoza, and he had a book, St. Bobby and the Barbarians, and I got to live on his couch for a semester when I first got there, and I read that book, and that's really when I first became aware of the behind-the-scenes thing and the tradition and what was growing. I knew about it as a player, and keeping up on guys, and I just had a feeling it was a special place. And then more and more I paid attention to it. And then when I was a graduate assistant in '93, when I was breaking the film down at the Kansas game, and they ran the ball 9 times inside the 8-yard line and didn't score, I said, I want to coach defense at that place. And that's been on my mind since '92. Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Greg, Ira Schofield, Taos Democrat. I know Jimbo and you worked together, and you guys have been friends for a long time.
Right.
And he's mentioned before that when he knew that he kind of had a list of guys that whenever he got a head coaching job. So had you guys been talking about, like, even when he was the interim head coach, that, hey, if it opens up, I want to bring you in, or how? I'm trying to talk through that process.
Coach Fisher, like you said, we worked together at Cincinnati in '99 and enjoyed that year together, and he tried to get me to come to LSU. He was my agent, and I just had a couple babies, and just couldn't move. But we always stayed in touch, talked regularly, and our conversations weren't really job related because we talked so much as acquaintances and friends. And when I did switch jobs, he was one of the guys that I confided in and asked, do you think this is a good move? And we just kept in touch, and he said, hey, one day, hopefully we'll be able to work together again. And he called, and I was in the car as soon as I get here.
But you guys kind of had it going on at ECU. At the time, Skip was still there. So how tough was that decision?
It was tough. It was really tough. Just because I was probably as close to a group of players as I've ever been, but the 3 best are working out at the combine right now, so I knew we weren't maybe going to be as good. And it was a good place. My family liked it in Greenville, and we just had to make a decision, to make a move and sort of branch out again and try another phase of football and get around a different group of coaches. I'd been with the Holtz, and Glenn Mason, and that all ties back to Woody Hayes and the Ohio State thing, and I needed to get around a different group of guys and learn more, really. And it was a no-brainer, believe me, no-brainer.
Coach, WarriorDollarWarChant.com.
Right.
Can you talk about how you were as a coach at ECU, and maybe with the interaction between your players and stuff like that, and what are you planning to bring here at Hudson?
How was I as a coach? I was good. Anything I'm going to say? No, I'm just kidding. We were, there's a really bad term called a player's coach. That's usually the guy that doesn't work them as hard, and they like it and smile all the time, and then you're fired in a couple years. But I think I became the type of coach that I am today when I had a child. I learned that those players are somebody's children, and you have to have that relationship with them. You have to be able to coach those guys and make sure that anything you do or say to them, you would also do to your own son. And I think when the players knew that, and because we were only a couple miles from campus, my family was around a lot, so it was good to see the relationship that I had with my own family and the one I had with the players and the defense. And you can't call your defense or your team a family if you neglect your own. You'd be hypocritical as a coach. So it's great relationships are built on that field, and it's very rewarding. So you don't have to be a raving lunatic yelling and screaming all the time out there, to win football games.
Coach, Lane Hurts, Seminoles.com. Just talk about your first impressions of Coach Stoops and how you two and your philosophies have been meshing.
I've studied the type of defense that the Stoops name, has traditionally run, and I know, each coach is going to do, something, in his own way, and what his older brother may do, he may do a little different here and there. But I had studied a lot of film and knew the type of defense that he ran, and we were very similar. Probably just had some opposites in the way we may call something, whether it's, they say make right to this and I may say left to this, but it's still the same defense. And it's been a good go so far. I mean, he's very open to suggestions. I'm not a big suggestion person, I follow my last direct order type of guy, and it's going to be good because the luxury of being a coordinator is when you have to call those plays on Saturday, you get a completely different view of what you want or how things are done and the decisions you got to make. So I can give him information on some things because our packages are so similar. But it's been great. I'm excited. That was one of the reasons that I wanted to come here. Once I knew what Coach Fisher was putting in place, and then with Mark, I knew that was going to expose me to a whole different family tree of coaches and things that I can learn.
Coach Dave Griffiths with WT.